So now Governor Reynolds, you all recall, you probably watched it, she gave her condition of the state message. She delivered that on Tuesday night, January 9th, to a joint session of the Iowa legislature. And she commented that Iowa is on the leading edge when it comes to enacting common sense, fiscally responsible, pro-growth policies that ensure its people have the freedom to flourish. And we are so blessed to live in this state because we are a red state. Thank heavens. So she outlined her priorities, which of course are elevating education for every student, preparing Iowa's next generation workforce, supporting the health and well-being of Iowans, cutting taxes for Iowans, and protecting Iowa's farmland. And so now we look at what bills really got passed, and I only picked several here just to highlight because there certainly were a variety of them. But the 2024 Iowa legislature ended Saturday, April 20th, when House lawmakers passed their final bills and adjourned for the year after a session marked by education policy, tax cuts, and other policies from leading conservative majorities. And I just picked out some. These were all in the news. You're all probably very aware of them, and we always know with bills, some people support them, some people do not. But the Area Educational Agency bill, that was one of the highest profile bills of the 2024 session. Also, the Armed School Staff, she signed that on actually April 19th. The bill which the law provides qualified immunity for school staff with permits to carry firearms. And then, of course, foreign agricultural land ownership, which will give our state attorney general more power on oversight related to foreign land ownership. Now, we know that, of course, none of these bills would have passed if it hadn't been for people just like you and I, people that got involved. They had a passion about an issue, and they were there to make their thoughts known. So I thank everyone who has done that or been a part of it. And you all have the power to lead. You know, you're all messengers. We all are back in our local communities and at the state level and beyond. And Cindy, thank you for your leadership in the Iowa legislature as well. So I reached out to Senator Dan Zumbaugh the other day. I was working on this, and I just said, Dan, I sent him a text actually. I just said, tell me approximately how many bills were introduced this legislative session and how many were actually passed. And first he gave me some kind of talking points here, just some information. I'm sorry, this mic keeps moving a bit. He says, well, let's just say this. If you introduce a bill, and Cindy, if you have any comments, let me know on this, you have about a 7% chance of getting it signed. So 93% of the bills that will be introduced, nothing will happen. 90% of our state budget, and a lot of you already probably know this, but it just kind of reminds you of where your tax dollars go. 90% goes to education, health and human services, and state employee salaries. And 58% of our state budget goes to education. I recall one time being at a League of Women Voters Forum. This is in Cedar Rapids, and Dan made that comment about, you know, where the majority of our funding goes, the 90% goes for these three departments. And I'm thinking, okay, now all you other people here today with your issues and whatnot, you guys can all fight for that 10%. And Cindy, I don't know how many other line items are there that got covers, but you're kind of getting a little small piece of the pie, so to speak. So at any rate, I wanted to comment on that. So then Dan, because he was accommodating my request here for the actual number of bills, and so he sent me a text this morning. He just said, this session we had 2,122 bill drafts. Of those, 1,665 were filed. Of those, 186 were sent to the governor, and there were also 2 passed out of joint resolutions. So he says, keep remembering what he said, like 7% actually get passed. So he says, I guess it must be a great year if the governor signs, all of it will be, signs 8% of them. So, I mean, you just see what an impact you have to be on making a difference and getting bills passed, your passion, whatever it is. So I thank you for being here. You're all leaders, you have the power to lead, and you're all great messengers on behalf of the IFRW, and thank you for being here.
So you can go read the whole bill or whatever. So I just encourage you to get on her newsletter list because it's things that affect the whole state. So it doesn't matter if she's your representative or not. She puts out this awesome newsletter and you'll know what's going on in Des Moines.
That's a great resource. Thank you very much.
How do we sign up?
You go to cindy@cindygolding.com, which is just, you go to cindygolding.com and just sign up for the newsletter. No, well, it's easier if they send me an email.
Okay.
Send an email to cindy@cindygolding.com and I will put you on my newsletter list.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, that's,
So cindy@cindygolding.com.
So
yeah, I tried to distill it so it's simple. A lot of the newsletters that come out of the Capitol have 2 pages of detail about one bill. Might not be a bill you want to know all that much about.
Real quick, we're really tight on time, so if we've got extra questions, we're gonna do it at lunchtime because we just have a really full schedule. I hate to do that to you guys, I know everybody has questions. Also, I do have a pertinent announcement. If you stayed at the hotel last night and you've not checked out, they've asked us to make sure your room is out. They're sold out tonight apparently, and they asked us to let everybody know. So there you go, there's that.
okay. With that said, Danielle is going to share with you some tools and resources of how you can connect and make an impact with your legislators.
Snag this thing off here. So, good morning. I am so excited to be with you this morning and really honored to be able to talk with you about the power of her voice. And we really want to make sure that you understand that all it takes is one. You don't have to have a group of people. It's great to have that. It's very empowering, but you as one person can use your voice to make a difference. So we're gonna get through that. Now, the first thing I want to point out is when we were really talking about this, I really wanted to give you something like a word picture to remember, right? And who better than Lady Liberty? My daughter and I had an opportunity to see her in January. I took my daughter up to New York, and it's so iconic. If you haven't seen her in person, obviously even just a picture of her is very empowering. So I want to encourage you, when you see her, understand that that is a tribute to you as a woman. We stand for strength, we stand in peace, and we come and we are here to just let the world know that we're not going to stand down, we're not going to back down. So let's get into this. So like I said, this is my daughter and I at the Statue of Liberty in January. It was freezing cold. It was 17 degrees that day and blowing wind. It was fabulous. But the things we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about the Iowa legislative page. We're going to talk about finding your legislator, speaking to your legislator, and the power of empowering others. So we're going to cover that. So buckle up. We're short on time, and I'm going to zip through this. And I move pretty quick, so I always have to tell myself, calm down, just take your time. But I will move fast, just for you, Michelle. So the first thing we're going to talk about is activating your voice. There's so many times as women, and I have experienced it, I'm sure you have experienced it, somebody has silenced you. Somebody's shushed you, somebody's told you you shouldn't speak, and I am here today to tell you that your voice matters, and you need to rise up, and you need to speak, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to stand together. There's a bunch of beautiful, amazing women in this room, and we are going to stand together. We are going to activate our voices together. And then I want you to choose courage over comfort. It's very uncomfortable for me to stand up here in front of you today. It's not a normal thing for me to do. I'm a singer. I can sing in front of thousands of people. Speaking is not normally my thing. So when Denise asked me to do this, I was like, I'm just going to step into it. I'm going to choose courage over comfort, and I encourage you to do the same. This picture here is of Denise and I in early 2022. We found out the trucker convoys were coming through Iowa, and I looked at Denise and I was like, shoot, we're gonna just be standing on a bridge waving flags. And I sent out this big thing. Honestly, you guys, there was probably 50 people there. I don't know who they are. I had never met them before. I'm not sure if I've seen a lot of them since, maybe one or two. These people materialized out of nowhere. We stood at night with American flags and Iowa flags, and we watched those trucker convoys come through, and it was some of the most empowering times that I've ever had, and the patriotism that was just so palpable in that moment was really incredible. So, not something I normally do, but I was like, you know what, we're just gonna get in there and do it. So, so the next thing we're gonna cover is this quote from Matthew Arnold, who's a 19th century British poet and philosopher, and he says, "If ever there comes a time when the women of the world come together purely and simply for the benefit of mankind, it will be a force such as the world has never known." I mean, let that sink in. And we are in that time. I mean, Riley speaking last night, if that doesn't just shake you to the core, I do not know what will. The time is now. We are at that time where we need to rise up as women. We need to stand for our families. We need to stand for our community. We need to stand for our faith and our freedoms. The time is now. And look at, such as the world has never known. We have so much power as women to rise up. And how many countries do allow women to do that? I mean, you go into all these other countries and women can't speak. Women don't have a voice. We have a voice. And we have to stand in the gap for the world to make sure people know we're here, we're not going away, and we're going to stand for our families and our faith. So a few years ago, I ran into a book called Lioness Arising. I meant to bring it up here so I could show you, by Lisa Bevere. And I will tell you that book is the single most impactful thing on my life for involvement. So I would encourage you to find that book, go get it. But this is a quote from that book. She says, "Our world needs women who will give their voice on behalf of the oppressed everywhere. This means being at ease with all we were created to be alongside one another. Confidence in ourselves, confidence in each other. It's time for us to lay aside our gender issues and move away from extremes that render us ineffective. It's time to wake up to how God has purposed us to be, strong in Him, an asset to men, and a voice of redemption to the lost and hurting in the world." We are an asset to men. Our voice inspires them, it challenges them. It's another aspect of what we as women can do with our voice. And then a voice of redemption to the lost and the hurting in the world. We are to bring people in. We are to welcome them. We are to defend the children. We are to rise up and act. We are to rise up and speak on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. So, how we do that, right? How do we do that in this environment? So, if you want to go to the next slide, we're gonna talk about how to find your legislative website. So, this is really important. If you haven't done this, I'm sure most of you have, but I wanted to cover it. It's really basic. You want to go to www.legis.iowa.gov. It's very important to put the www in there. A lot of us don't do it. If you don't do it, you're not going anywhere. So put that in there. The other thing, on the very top, it says video tutorials, and you're gonna find that there's a Bill's Quick Search over here on the left, and there's also a site overview. So I would encourage you, if you're not doing that, if you don't know how to navigate this page, get brave, get in there, and start looking. And then the next slide there, Jody. How to find your legislator. Again, really basic stuff. Most of you know how to do it, but we need to be able to teach people how to do this. And this is a really effective way to do that. Visuals are very important. So what you're gonna do is you're going to go to find your legislators on this page, and you're gonna put your address in right there, and then it will populate who your legislators are. So we need to be educating our members, and our new members especially, how to get there, what it looks like, why it matters. And then your personal impact at the Iowa State Capitol. You know what, we can talk about it in our clubs, we can talk about it with our friends, about why it matters. We gotta be there. We gotta be there. And I live in the metro, I live over in Adel on the west side of Des Moines. I probably get there 2 or 3 times a year, so, you know, I probably should be there more, but be there. Pick one day. Pick one day and just go. Be a part of the process. This is incredibly important. There's a picture later on in the slide, and I'll show you, but you can go back to the other one. I had an opportunity to speak at one of the educational bills just a month or so ago, and I brought my daughter with me. We had a very negative experience in her 8th grade class with a teacher, with her history teacher. I was very unhappy with that, and what that 8th grade teacher told me is that if I wanted her to teach patriotism in a history class, true American history, then I would have to get it legislated. And I was like, you know what? I was like, maybe we will. You know, I was like, I just moved here, but maybe we will. So I had an opportunity to speak in session, and Senator Zahn was there, and I spoke with, I said my piece, whatever. He asked us to stay afterwards, and this is what he said to me. He said, "It is so nice to see a fresh face at the Capitol. Thank you for coming." And then he went even farther, and he showed the bill to my daughter. My daughter is 16, showed her the bill, and was like, this is the bill process. In Iowa, we're old school, everything's paper. This is how we do it. And I didn't know it. We both learned something that day. But the most important thing was that we showed up. We actually were there. And I know it's hard if you're far away, you know, whatever, but just, if you're far and you want to go, reach out to one of us at the crew. We are happy to help you. We can house you. We can do whatever. We are happy to do that just to make sure that you get into that Capitol. So the next thing is, if you can't get there, then the next most important thing is emailing your legislator. So Jody, if you want to go to that next slide there. This is our crew member, Cynthia, and she's a great example of emailing. We've got to do something. If you can't get there, send an email. And that's the most important thing, secondary to actually physically being there. The next slide there. Okay, getting active and staying active. All right. We get a bee in our bonnet. We're excited about something. There's legislation that's pushing through that we're excited about. We're all in, right? And then it goes away, or it passes, or doesn't pass, and then life gets busy and we disappear. We disappear from our club. We disappear from the women that we've been surrounded with during that whole time we were excited. I want to challenge you and encourage you today to get active and stay active. And that means building relationships with the women that you're in club with, and the women that are coming into your club. Reach in, email, text, call them, bring them in. Don't let them disappear. Just be a pain in the butt about it and just bring them in all the time. Just keep bringing them. A couple of pictures from what we were able to do last year, really exciting stuff. It was an honor to be a part of these events. So if you want to go to the next slide there. The power of promotion. And Jordan covered some of this on social media, but I want to really, really hit hard on this. People want to be a part of something that's fun. People don't want to come into a meeting and be like droning on and on and on about numbers and legislation. I'm sorry, politics are boring. They just are. And I don't want to be a part of something that's boring. So get some energy in there. Get some excitement. Get some people who are doing something fun. Even if it doesn't relate specifically to politics, make it fun anyways. It's the one thing we've been trying to do at the crew. And so you'll see here, we're all excited. We're showing people, post it to your social media. Just do a quick little thing. Look, we're having so much fun at our club this month, and you want to be a part of this. Create the energy yourself. Nobody generates excitement except for you. Do it. Promote yourself. Be excited. And this one is so important. So this is my daughter in the middle. And this is Senator Zahn talking about that bill. The reason why I chose these pictures specifically is because it is our job as women to use our voice to empower the next generation. We have to reach down and bring them up, right? A rising tide raises all ships, right? It brings everybody up. We gotta reach in, and we gotta reach into that generation. We gotta pull them with us. So we've got Jordan Landau, speaking at that same at that same session for public comment for the gender bill. We've got my daughter Marley, she was 15 at the time, and we've got Denise Bubeck, and she is also testifying. We've got spanning the generations of women who are stepping into something that they normally wouldn't have stepped into if it hadn't have been for somebody saying, get involved, we want you here, and we want you to stay. And so I challenge you and encourage you, you know younger women, you know they're busy, make it achievable for them to be a part of your club in some aspect, even if it's just a consistent text message, but we need to bring those women in. When you look around your club, who is going to carry the legacy? It's the younger women that are coming up, and we have to build them into those. We have to be strong enough leaders of ourselves, in ourselves. We have to be confident enough to say, hey, I'm not gonna leave you behind, I'm gonna empower you, right? And we talk about, FRW is all about empowering, equipping, and activating like-minded Republicans for the cause of good government, to elect Republicans in all areas of government, right? That's our job. How do we do that? We bring these younger generations in, we keep them in by being just pestering the crap out of them because they're busy, and we make it fun. And we make it fun, we make it exciting, and we start to get results, and we start to bring these women in, and they're like, I'm gonna run for school board, I'm gonna run for city council, I'm gonna run for whatever, but that's how we do it. We have to grow them from within, and it starts now. We've gotta keep doing that. So I think that, is there one more slide? That's everything I've got. Hopefully I cruised through pretty quickly, and thank you so much for that. And here's the book. If you guys, I would encourage you, this book, I kid you not, when I came out of I moved here from Washington State, I needed this book. I needed this book to understand that I still had influence, that I still had something that God had for me that I could share. And I would tell you that Lisa Bevere covers this. She talks about being empowered, not just in the church, but also in your community and government. So go get this book.
I love what she said, because I've long time said politics doesn't have to be painful, and we make it that way, and nobody is going to find time to come to something that's going to be long and boring and painful. And I think both of our speakers have illustrated that. Like, we've got to bring the energy. And to speak to what you said was